Okay, 30-second board. Hot topics leading into Monster Energy Motocross of Nations this weekend in Indiana. First, JT, we got to explain how this format works. I love it. It's the only team race really in this sport, and it's the only one where math becomes a major part of how a race is won and lost. I'll sum it up as quickly as I can. Every nation has 3 riders, 2 on 450s, 1 on a 250. There are 3 motos. Each rider races 2 of those. And that means there is a couple races with 250s and 450s on the track together. And of the 3 motos, 2 riders each, that's 6 scores. You get to drop your worst. So 5 of the 6 scores count. But the fact that you have 2 riders on each team in each moto and that 250, 450 mix, to me, that makes this race unlike anything else.
It's super unique. You know, you look at the format, and what I really would pay attention to, if this is your first experience, you've been a casual viewer in the past, that drop score is so paramount. And a lot of these teams, we're going to go through them. You're going to see like one rider you maybe haven't heard of out of the 3. Well, they're hoping that they only have to use 1 of his scores. That puts a little bit more pressure on the 2 marquee riders on any team, but it gives them a way to offset any sort of letdown moto they might have. If they have a mechanic or a DNF, they don't have to count that. But in that 3rd moto, the scores are going to get crazy. And you think about the final in Las Vegas, when it's triple points, it kind of feels like that. Everything gets wonky in that final moto. You're going to see wild swings and who's in front, who's leading. We've seen certain years where there's been 3 or 4 different countries winning this thing in that final moto because of that drop score. So I think a lot of times you kind of see things going a certain way, and then that 3rd moto throws everything on its head. So it really is one of those races where you cannot count anyone out until that checkered flag flies in Moto 3.
So let's get to some of the nations to watch, starting with the country that won last year for the first time ever. And that's the strategy you just said. So you've got the Lawrence brothers on Team Australia. I don't think we need to give you their resume. They're going to be great. They always are. Kyle Webster is the 450 champion of Australian motocross. So the 2nd year in a row, he's going to race a 250 for the team. Factory Honda's given him the same motorcycle that Chance Hymas and Joe Shimoda have. He's been training with the Lawrences, but that's really the key, JT. Kyle Webster's got to give them on the 250 at least one good result if Hunter and Jet do what they normally do, which is pretty much never have bad racing.
Yeah, you have to like their chances coming into this. I would say they might have the top 2 racers in the world right now in Brothers Lawrence. So that's a big coup for them to have. All the reasons you mentioned for Kyle Webster. He is amazing in his own right. He's going to have factory equipment. And don't forget, he raced this Ironman National this past July to prepare for this race in August. So he should be more ready than he's ever been compared to a race like Matterley a year ago where they got the job done. So you have to like the Australians on paper. Anything can happen at this race, and usually does, but man, they are fielding a strong team in 2025.
Let's talk to the Lawrence brothers who we caught up with at Las Vegas. Their thoughts on Motocross of Nations.
It's really exciting to be the first ones to ever do that. As Australians, it's going to be cool, and I can't wait to run the Australian colours of green and gold again. It's always a pleasure to run those colours, and it's a lot nicer that's in America because it's like our home now. So it's cool to do it there, and yeah, so we're looking forward to it.
Man, what an honour! I think Australia's centre team for the past 40 or maybe 50 years, and you know, we finally got the victory, and it's unreal. So cool. There's going to be a lot of Aussies there. USA has a great team, so we're looking forward to going up against them. All the other countries have a strong lineup as well, so it's going to be awesome. Can't wait. Weather's going to be a lot different to when we're normally there in the summer, so yeah, it's going to be a breath of fresh air, and it'll be a good weekend.
Okay, let's get into some more teams here. Now, Team Belgium, I don't know if they're going to win the event, and they are one of the winningest nations in the history of it, but JT, I'm looking specifically at one guy on the team. They also have brothers. They have Lucas and Sasha Konen on the team, and Liam Everts, the son of the great Stefan Everts. You go to a lot of these MXGP events. Lucas Koenen nearly won the Premier Class title at 18 years old this year. To me, he has got to be circling this in the calendar of, I want my team to do well, but I want to personally show the world who I am.
Do not sleep on this team, Weech. The one question I have is, none of these riders have ridden this racetrack. That is something that they're going to have to learn. But when you think about a Friday practice, Saturday practice, and the qualifying race, and then Sunday, they should have it pretty figured out by then. But this is a very young team. You're talking about 3 riders, 20 years of age or younger, but they're going to come in with that youthful exuberance. And I feel like they're going to come in and try to shock the world, and they have the talent to do it. I don't think they're the favorites. When you look at their team, there's no way you can say that they're better than Team Australia or maybe even a healthy Team USA. But I'm telling you, things go their way. These guys are capable and they are young enough. They're young enough to believe that they can do this, which is a powerful thing at this race.
Yeah, but how badly would Lucas Kunin like to line up against Jet Lawrence, Eli Tomac, and guys like that and let everyone in America, where he hopes to maybe race in a few years, know just how good he can be?
Well, and these guys are expert starters. I would say specifically the Kunin brothers. They have been hole shotting all season long, and we do know how powerful starts can be at this event. So don't be shocked if you see those Red Bull Carly Racing KTMs out front multiple times on Saturday and Sunday.
Oh boy. Oh yeah, Sasha's brother on a 250 is ridiculous off the starts. Everts is a 250 rider. He'll have to move up and race a big bike for the open class, but you might be onto something. That could be a real dark horse contender to win this and kind of get Belgium back on track where they used to be. They won this race all the time back in the day. Kind of replaced by the next team we'll talk about, France, who had a 5-in-a-row run at one point, then they won it again not that long ago when they were the host nation. France is always better than the sum of its parts. They really operate like a team. I think that's maybe been neutralized a little bit because other teams have copied that, but still, they've got a lot of talent. Romain Febvre just won the MXGP world title. Maxime Renault always shows up for this race. My question is the MX2 rider. Tom Vial, I guess, not available. Can you tell me about their MX2 rider?
Well, so Mathis Villan is the rider you're asking about. He's currently on Factory Kawasaki MXGP. That's actually owned by Formula One former champion Kimi Räikkönen. So he comes from a great pedigree as far as team goes. He was your EMX champion in 2024, EMX 250 class. This is his first year in MX2, but already getting on podium, already hole shotting GP. So he is capable, but you never know how a rider like this is going to do at this big of an event on this type of stage. When you look at Team France overall, it's likely the most strategic team. I think they have the most camaraderie. They have, I think, the biggest effort behind the scenes to build a team effort over there. But the riders they have this year, it's a little bit different look. You have Febvre, he's the reigning MXGP world champion, but Renault has been wildly inconsistent, a lot of injuries there. And Villan is the great unknown. This is his first year really racing on this type of stage. So are they capable? Yes. But I think there are more questions surrounding this French team than there have been in a very long time.
Let's get to Team Germany, led by the very familiar face, Ken Roczen. Here are his thoughts on competing.
I'm really excited for the Motocross of Nations. You know, I've done it many, many times throughout my career, and the funnest ones are always when you're very, very prepared. I was actually able to win the MXGP class in 2023, but didn't have any injuries. So I did race Unadilla this year, but that was pretty much the only time I spent on motocross. So we're gonna go straight from, Supercross style of racing and then just show up at this Nations and see where we're at.
All right, that's Kenny. This has always been the story for Germany for a long time. They are very often able to put two very great riders into this event, but the third rider is always the question mark, and they have it again this year. Roczen, we know how good he is, and they just won the MX2 world title 250 class with Simone Langenfelder. So JT, if they could get one other good moto, maybe they got something.
Yeah, this is the situation for many teams, right? We talked earlier in the show about two great riders, world class, and then the third rider they really need that heroic effort from to step up, and that comes in the form of Maximilian Spies. We just don't know what we're going to get from him. He's raced well on the EMX stage, similar to Mathis Villan, but this year was his first year in the MXGP class, and it was highs and lows, struggles. It's a really deep class, and you get the inconsistency and the learning moments that are typical for that jump immediately to MXGP. He's a larger rider, so the 450 fits him better, but I always worry about riders on this stage and this moment with this much pressure to live up to the expectation of riders like Roczen and Langenfelder alongside you. How does that end up going? And you've seen other riders, whether it was Marcus Schiffer in the past or Tom Koch, there have been a lot of riders in this spot, in the same situation, asked to perform. Sometimes it's gone to plan, 2012, other times not so much. We'll just have to see what this year brings.
Okay, so we mentioned that Ken Roczen's a familiar face there at Germany. Let's get to what I think is such an enjoyable part of this event. All these other riders who you see throughout the year, you kind of don't even necessarily think about what country they're from. They're just familiar faces at the races. And then all of a sudden here, you're like, oh yeah, of course Enzo Lopes is racing. There's a Team Brazil. Of course, Harry Koulas is racing. There's Team Estonia, Valentin Guillaume, who we got to know this summer in Pro Motocross. The Swiss team has been good for a long time. He's been a part of it, but now we know him well. That's what's so fun about this event. These people that they're not necessarily going to win, but it's good to see them out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of riders like this. You think about Tony Cairoli, think about Tim Geiser, right? His team not going to really get the job done. He does have Jan Panzer, who's been a top 5 guy in MXGP. But again, it's that third rider that may take a team like that out. But that doesn't mean that Tim Geiser can't go win the race just like he did in 2024. So it's kind of the team race gets all the headlines, but there are individual performances at this race that are really noteworthy, that stars around the world are going to show up and do their thing. Maybe they just don't show up in the overall result.
Couple other names to mention: Lorenzo Lacurcio will be there, always strong for his team out of South America. Kulas, we mentioned, Guillaume, Hardy Munoz. You don't get Hardy in motocross in America much, but do you remember Hardy jumping Larocco's leap before anybody at this race a couple years ago? So the Chile rider will be out there too.
Well, if there was anybody that should ever wear some sort of camera full time to share his experience of what the sport of super motocross is all about, it's probably Hardy Munoz. But even then, I would want those people to sign a waiver if they have any sort of heart condition to take a ride along with Hardy.
Great to have him back for many reasons, the entertainment alone. Stav Orland, who made a couple Supercross mains this year, is competing. And I guess back, Mikkel Harup's back from injury, JT.
Yeah, he should be good. Same old thing, like how will the team from Denmark do overall? But I think for Harup, he's already proven himself, so he fits into that same role. Like, can he have an individual performance that he'll walk out of there with a smile on his face, and maybe it will be good enough to put that team inside the top 10. But there are a lot of teams in that same mix.
All right, so that's always fun to have those riders there. Let's get back to some of the powerhouse units. So you have the Netherlands team. They are without Jeffrey Hurlings. Now, I've heard a million different rumors as to why he's not on the team. He was actually hurt at the time the team was announced, so maybe that was it. I heard he's doing a beach race that weekend, but maybe he's doing that because he knew he wasn't going to be on the team. But that's tough because they also have Kai de Wolf, who was last year's 250 MX2 champ over in MXGP and almost won it this year. That team is always strong, but without Hurlings, I don't know how strong.
Well, they are going to be strong. And the question is, how punishing is the loss of Jeffrey Hurlings going to be on this team? And really, it just came down to, at the time, when they needed to choose their team and start working logistically on this race, Jeffrey wasn't riding at his best. He was coming off an injury. He hadn't found his best form yet. And he decided to not make the move. And I heard that he said, listen, I don't want to go there not riding well and underperform. That's just not who I am. That's not the effort I want to put in. But you look down the stretch of those MXGP rounds to close out the season, he's on pace to win any race around the world. So it feels like on the front end, a big loss for the Dutch. But if we know anything about this race, the Dutch always bring it. Cue in every single time. We don't know who's going to win, and the Dutch are standing there alongside the French battling for the win.
We want to talk a wild card here with our next team we're going to talk about. That's Team Japan. Now, they are not contenders to win the race or even podium. But this is an interesting little nugget. Joe Shimoda's back on the team, has not raced for Japan since the last time the event happened in America a couple years ago, and that was a disaster. Shimoda crashed like 100 times in the mud. But not only is Shimoda back with the obvious momentum of the SMX World Championship, but he's going to be at a 450. Look out.
Yeah, I think this is just pure fun for Joe. No pressure. He's probably he's smiling all the time anyway, but he's surely going to be smiling after that Super Motocross World Championship. But I think this is a really cool opportunity for Joe to showcase his 450 skills, because don't forget, he's auditioning for a 450 spot in the near future. He has been in the 250 class for an extended period of time, and every rider that's succeeding in the 250 class is going to want to make the jump eventually. So I think a lot of people will be looking to see how Joe performs on this stage against established 450 elite. So this is a great opportunity for Joe, and I don't think there's a lot of downside.
Okay, we actually asked Joe Shimoda about this at Las Vegas.
Of course, I'm proud to represent for Japan. It's you're racing for your own country, even though all my fans, I race in the United States, but the day I race Ironman, we have to go against it. But I mean, as a racer, I like this new challenge on the 450, and looking forward to it.
Okay, and now on to our discussion of Team USA, which we had to redo because breaking news, which you've probably heard by now, Hayden Deegan will not be able to compete for Team USA. So you can follow this bouncing ball. He breaks the collarbone at the SMX World Championship finale in Las Vegas. Everyone assumes he's out. He gets the collarbone plated. Then they start thinking he will be able to race. In fact, the AMA announced Team USA with RJ Hampshire subbing in for Chase Sexton. but Deegan was still announced as part of the team until Tuesday when he actually tried to ride. That's 8 days out of collarbone surgery. I actually talked to Brian Deegan, his dad, directly about this. So he rode for about 20 minutes on Tuesday in Hayden. Things seemed okay, but they were looking for him to drop lap times, put in a sprint, see how it would feel if he really started to ride hard. And it did not feel good. He said if he overjumped anything, he's kind of favoring the arm to try to save it. And at that point, they already had a welcome plan B with Justin Cooper. And the calculation was pretty much this simple. Would Hayden Deegan be better in a 30-minute plus 2-lap moto with a bad collarbone than Justin Cooper? And even Hayden said, no. So it made the decision pretty easy. So that's it. Hayden Deegan tried. He got surgery. He did PT. He simply can't go sprint pace right now. So Justin Cooper's in. So JT, how does this change the prospects now with Justin Cooper on the 250?
Yeah, we knew this had to be in the realm of possibility, right? Like Hayden Deegan just had surgery. He wasn't sure he was going to try to race. He then kind of decides, well, I'm going to tough it out. I really want to kind of set things right from Las Vegas. And I think there are a lot of people looking at this saying, well, if he goes out there, puts in this heroic effort, Team USA wins at Ironman, not a lot of people are going to be talking about all the shenanigans in Las Vegas. So there was a big opportunity there. But I believe that Justin Cooper all along had to know that this was a likely outcome. We already saw him practicing. You know, he's around that team, so he would know better than anybody else kind of where Hayden's at physically. And he was likely there the day that Hayden tried to ride and do those sprint laps earlier this week. So I don't think it's much of a drop-off to Justin Cooper at all, especially when you factor in that Hayden Deegan has this injury. Now, Hayden Deegan might be the best 250 racer on the planet, so it's impossible to say there isn't some sort of drop down from him. But we didn't have a fully healthy Hayden Deegan. We had a surgically repaired Hayden Deegan that we have no idea how that was going to go. And I'll give you a scenario. Nobody really want to talk about it, but what if he had a crash on Saturday? What if he just fell over and the pain was too much to keep going? Well, by starting that race on Saturday, he effectively ruins any chance for Team USA, not of his own, fault, but it would just take us out of the running because he would be the official MX2 entrant. Justin Cooper would be effectively out of the running at that point. So in the end, I think this is a little bit of a safer call to have Justin Cooper, even though the upside might not quite be as high.
Okay, now the one constant for the team is, of course, Eli Tomac. We asked him about how special it is to compete for Team USA.
It's going to be great. Back on home soil, and Ironman's going to be really neat. It's one of the best tracks that we have. We'll go give it our best and hopefully bring that #1 spot home.
Okay, there's one last piece to this puzzle besides the athletes and their relative level of health, and that is the racetrack itself, which is familiar. Ironman Raceway has been around on the pro motocross scene for a decade now, and the general layout will be similar to what we've seen there more recently. They've already been making changes to accommodate this race. But what is different is they expect such a massive crowd that they've been slowly but surely adding sections of racetrack just to fit more fans and find more spectating area. We've heard they've built some new grandstands. Essentially, this is like those rom-com movies, JT, where the girl looks a certain way at work every day, and then they have like a big event, and then suddenly she's got this beautiful dress on, and everything goes to a much higher level. That's kind of what happens when your track hosts Motocross of Nations. Ironman will be looking at its very best, but the track itself, probably pretty familiar. You can take us through it.
Yeah, I think, one of the biggest, upsides for Team USA is they've ridden this track a million times. They know the dirt composition, they know how it's going to form, and they just raced on it 2 months ago. So they should be very familiar, but I think the additions to this racetrack starting a year ago in preparation for this race have changed it a little bit. There's shadows now, that specific kind of GNCC section in the back where there's some roots, there's some rocks, it's really ruddy back there. Adds a little bit of variety to it. And I think about 10 years ago when we first started going to this Ironman Raceway and what it has gone from then to now. It has changed so much. It's a lot faster. There's a lot more like straight sections where it was really tight switchbacks back and forth before. So I think this track sets up better for the Americans now than it would have maybe a decade ago. But Weege, to your point, when you talk about how this place is going to look, think about your local golf course if they decided to put the US Open there. That's basically what Ironman is going to look like. It's going to look the best it ever has. VIP areas, bleachers, every fan that loves motorcycle racing is probably on their way to Indiana this week. So it's going to be a special weekend and one to remember.
When you hear that a racetrack is having to make accommodations because they are afraid of how many people they're going to have to fit in, and can they give enough viewing and enough space for that many fans to fit, that's kind of an exciting thought as it is. We want to mention that there's stuff going all weekend. There will be start practice on Friday, a parade actually in the town of Crawfordsville, serving as opening ceremonies. There are qualifying races on Saturday. We'll be doing live shows Friday and Saturday night. And then the racing is on Sunday. So it is truly a 3-day experience, which is, again, pretty unique compared to any other event. But why wouldn't it be? It's Motocross of Nations. It is the Olympics of motocross. We will be back next week. Both of us will be at the event. We'll give you the full wrap-up from the ground floor, the vibes, and everything that happened, who won, who lost, and why. And then we'll have more shows throughout the off-season to keep you updated. But I don't know if everyone watches this race all the time, so we're going to try to give you as much coverage as we can because there's truly nothing like it, and maybe a lot of fans aren't completely familiar with it.
Yeah, this is an iconic event. It's not points paying. It's not a race that riders are going to thinking about a huge purse payout or prize money or any of that. This is about pride. This is about representing your country. And if you talk to any rider who's ever won this race and they're standing up there and the national anthem's playing and they're draped in the American flag, that's something that they will never forget. And Team USA has an opportunity to win back-to-back home soil races. It's a huge opportunity. And for every fan that's going, maybe it's your first time, you're going to understand what I'm talking about when you're there. The patriotism and just how authentic and genuine the passion is for this race is really, really hard to ignore.
That's really, really well said. We'll try to sum it up as best we can again next week with the wrap up. Go to supermotocross.com. Check out the social channels to get updates throughout the weekend. And also check out that 2026 regular season schedule, which is live by now. Figure out what races you want to go to next year. And next week, we'll be back covering Monster Energy, Motocross of Nations. Or we'll see you right there in Indiana.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports. If you enjoyed what you just watched, well, it's time to bring the action and subscribe to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube channel. You can have it all: news, highlights, interviews, and analysis. So go for it.